Awesome. Third edition. I'm excited. It's going to be a fun show. We'll have some surprises that I don't think even Robinson doesn't even know. Dan knows. Dan saw one of them that I think is pretty hilarious. But just having some fun with it.
As I said,
third edition. Yeah. So yeah, welcome guys. Dan Robinson again. Dan's first time officially on the show, but Dan's been face of Wormhole and the Wormhole Foundation for a long time. So it's great to have him officially on the show. We have a special guest that I'm excited to have up. Obviously Doug from Fogo. We'll have him up here in about 10 to 12 minutes. We'll try and run through everything that we need to get through before that. But quickly, guys, why don't you guys give some intros and then we can jump into agenda and some of the fun stuff.
Dan, I can't believe this is your first time on the Eco Call. This is big. It's a big moment.
It is.
Third time's the charm, I guess.
Yeah. But go ahead. You start with that intro. I mean, it is your first time after all.
Yeah. I guess, Dan Reeser run the foundation with Robinson. We've been doing this together for over 2 years now, and really proud of where we are today. We have a incredibly talented team, very crypto native, constantly pushing out, value and results. So that's kind of where we are now. Been in crypto for 7 years now, which is crazy. And focused now 100% all day, every day on Wormhole.
I can't really beat that intro. But for those of you who don't know me, Robinson, aka Interob, help run the foundation with Dan. Been in crypto for a while. Started mining in 2017. Although I heard someone say their story recently of how they got into crypto was buying a fake ID with Bitcoin.
Many such cases.
I never did, but maybe I did. So maybe I got into crypto in like 2012. But anyway, really excited to be here. There's just so much going on. I think today's a big day, which we'll go over. But the most important thing I try to get across a lot of the times is been here for building this for over, the contributors for over 4 years, and we'll be here for many more years to come. And excited to talk about some of the updates today. But I'll pass it back to you, Thomas.
Awesome. Yeah. So quick agenda. We'll do March recap highlights as usual. We'll do entering the wormhole, a tokenized recap, and then past, present, and future. Big day today, April 3rd. The first anniversary, the birthday, however we want to describe it. I think it's a big day regardless. So without further ado, we'll just give a quick warm intro to our WASI of the week. WASI, why don't you take it away?
Welcome to the Wormhole Ecosystem Call. Wormhole is the interop platform connecting traditional finance and the internet economy. Wormhole's suite of products allow developers, institutions, and users to securely and seamlessly move any assets and data between over 35 leading blockchain networks.
Appreciate you all tuning in. Enjoy the Wormhole Ecosystem Call. G-Worm and enjoy.
Bang.
You got competition, Thomas. You got competition for host, man. That guy's good.
I know. Shout out Josh, our in-house AI wizard. He cooked that up for us. A little WASI of the week. Maybe every week we'll have a WASI to intro the show, and he'll have a different personality, different voice. Dan wasn't sold on the British accent, but I told him we started at Cookie Monster voice, and then ran the gamut of just what voices could fit this creature, and British just fit the best. But regardless,
British always wins.
Yeah, I know. The soothing British sales voice hard to beat. But when it comes to the March recap, I think we'll cover this later in the show. But Tokenize was our one-day institutional event that took place a few weeks ago, which I don't know how you can kind of beat that for a first-time institutional focus event when it comes to the guest list, the speakers, the content that was covered. That was awesome. So we'll cover some clips from that. That was super fun. We are creeping up on $59 billion all-time multi-chain volume. That is special again to us, as I've stressed week over week. And then another strong month in March, coming at $1.2 billion for the month. A little more temperate climate when it comes to on-chain activity, but regardless, people still seeking out opportunities across chain. And then I think last but not least, year one of the year one anniversary of the decentralization of the Wormhole protocol. We'll have Dan kind of cover what the year's been like, what the focus has been, and what the future looks like for us here at the Wormhole Foundation.
For this, I'll actually call out one of our partners too. The 59 billion number reminded me of it. In March, BlackRock just crossed 1 billion in their BUIDL fund on chain in AUM, and now they're sitting at about 1.92 billion. So they're about to cross 2 billion in on-chain tokenized assets in their BUIDL fund, and that distance between 1 billion and 2 billion has been about 19 days. So they're just like exponentially growing, in large part because they're deploying multi-chain, which is awesome.
Absolutely. We'll have a little slide for them to cover one of the recent expansion and news around that and how we were involved in that. So definitely good good shout, Dan. Otherwise, I think from an ecosystem perspective, another like very big week. I think I would want to call out Redstone going multi-chain with NTT. Redstone is an awesome Oracle provider, actually powering some of the institutions that we are taking multi-chain in collaboration with Securitize as well. So it's great to have them on board going multi-chain with NTT. I want to shout out M0. I feel like M0 has been cooking. Obviously, every new deployment with M0 natively integrates Wormhole NTT. So Noble was a big launch for them in the past week. Noble actually really crushed it. I think, within the first week of their USDN launch, they were north of 20 mil TVL or supply of USDN. So that was I think a great case study for the M0 guys, and super well deserved, and an awesome partner, Noble. Send AI, Solana Agent Kit, also integrating the Wormhole SDK, which I think it goes to show like the diversity of application that Wormhole can power. So any AI agent that is sending USDC cross chain is using it, leveraging Wormhole Connect via CCTP. Very, very cool integration. And then finally, Circle, a longtime partner of ours, released CCTP v2. So shout out Circle for that. But I think there's obviously, some bigger news when it comes to Circle, obviously announcing their IPO, a lot of buzz around that. I guess like Robinson, just teeing it up for you a little bit. Like we've been working with Circle for a long time. And, maybe just to give the audience some background and color on that relationship, when it started, and, kind of like the major milestones that we've hit together over the years.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's cool timing too, because, last night Jeremy and the team invited me in to the opening of their office in New York. Obviously there's a big push to kind of get back to the US for some companies and some people, and New York's kind of proving to be the center of crypto. But that was a really cool event, just because we could kind of, as having worked with Circle over the years, kind of see the culmination of a lot of their hard work. And we should always support those companies that were crypto native, at least to start, that are help driving the industry forward. So it was a really, really cool event. But yeah, we've been working with them, for a very long time, right? Wormhole was kind of one of the main ways in which USDC would actually go cross chain in the beginning. Today, we think about it as native to all these different chains, but it didn't used to be that way. And so, they were kind of one of the pioneers, I think, when it came to like assets across multiple chains. Now we kind of view that today as just the de facto standard. Like your asset, of course, exists on multiple chains.
Yeah.
And so along the way, though, we help them figure out a lot of the ways in which to bring USDC cross chain. What's the optimal design? Helping them with the design, the spec, and the scope, et cetera. That was that was the original kind of bridge implementation with CCTP. And then all the way to today, obviously we work with CCTP in a lot of capacities. CCTP v2 is out. And, you know, we use that in some ways as well. We've also built our own versions. But what I love about Circle is because we help them build CCTP for USDC, we were able to take that same principle and effectively build CCTP for all assets. That's really what NTT is. So it's been a really cool relationship, very symbiotic, and again, just really happy for all their recent success. I know there was some commentary on CT about various things, but you know, overall, it's a big success, and all of crypto should be excited about it.
Yeah, totally. No, CT's never happy. We know this already, so that's something new. Awesome. I think that covers everyone here. Again, just a super great week when it comes to eco growth and news on that front. I think Dan, you were referencing this earlier, but you know, felt like it was appropriate to do a dedicated slide for our friends at Securitize. We'll obviously talk about them a bunch when it comes to Tokenize and their involvement. But I think, you know, BUIDL to Solana was another big move for both us and for them, and as well as just like general institutional adoption. I think there was definitely, I was surprised that people were surprised that BlackRock would go to Solana. I think like there was a lot of hope amongst like the ETH community that their like institutional moat would maybe last a little bit longer. But you know, again, we couldn't be more stoked for like this multi-chain expansion. And yeah, like Dan, as you were referencing, creeping up on 2 billion, the jump from 1 to 2 happened like pretty, you know, he said 19 days. So that's impressive. But yeah, any other commentary from both of you on this matter, and then we can get moving.
No, I think it's interesting too. I think the trend to watch is actually going to be like, where do people launch first? Everyone typically launches on Ethereum first and then scales, but would not be surprised if we start seeing funds launch on Solana first and then consider expanding to Ethereum. So that's definitely something to watch. But exciting for, yeah, you mentioned for us and BlackRock, also exciting for Solana. Solana is just, they're crushing it. They've got an incredible team. One thing that I wanted to call out here is people who are in New York or nearby, or even like able to travel there, highly recommend this Solana Accelerate event. We're going to be there. They're focusing a lot on Wall Street, on tech people from San Francisco, on DC, and kind of bringing everyone together in one place. And like this BlackRock announcement kind of lines up perfectly with that. And I'm sure there'll be conversation around these sorts of funds and institutions launching there.
Yeah, and maybe the one thing I would add too is, and not to take away from Solana for a moment, because everyone knows I love Solana, love all chains, love Solana too. But I think that there was an announcement, and maybe we'll actually get into this at Tokenize.NYC, but of Securitize launching their own chain. That chain, you know, Wormhole's canonical and native for all the institutional assets. Which will be an interesting theme to think about or watch develop, right? Like there's almost like this dedicated chain to issuing these assets initially. However, I think a lot of the commentary I saw on CT was kind of talking about like, the liquidity is moving off, you know, Solana or Ethereum or things like that. I don't think that's actually what's going to happen. I think it's very purpose built to tokenize these assets, and then you're going to have, you know, the entire DeFi ecosystem that's now has these great network effects and users and liquidity on Solana, that Wormhole's going to take these assets that are tokenized through this like very bespoke kind of chain experience and bring them to Solana, so you can use them. You can use BUIDL, you can use ACRED as collateral in a borrow lend, or you can send it to Ethereum mainnet and use it to mint a stable coin on Athena, et cetera. So I think that's going to be a really interesting trend to see. But the one thing I think that I didn't necessarily agree with on CT was just like, oh, it's all the liquidity is going to move off of these bigger chains that we've come to know and love. And I don't necessarily think that's going to be the case.
Yeah, totally. No, a lot of conversation around like the future of the general purpose L1. I think our guest, who we're going to bring on in 5 minutes, will have some good context for this conversation. So excited to have him up. But yeah, that was, I think that was it when it comes to ecosystem coverage. We usually do a little, we usually spend some time deep diving volumes and chains and different things, but we have another friend who's going to just give us a 2-minute report on what he's seeing cross-chain. So I'm going to welcome to the stage
all to give you a quick update
Billy
on
Bridge,
what's been moving multi-chain.
Weatherman.
For the month of March, Wormhole enabled $1.2 billion in transfer volume across 60,000 unique transactions. We peaked on Monday, March 4th with $60 million on that day alone. It's been a good few months for Solana, but in the month of March, Ethereum dominates the inflows, seeing over $76 million of assets transferred onto the chain. A good chunk of that change came from Solana, with 48% of it coming from the chain, amid a cool down in meme coin action. Despite more temperate on-chain activity, Solana still saw $42 million worth of inflows. Base also put in a strong showing, with the highest inflows from Ethereum, overtaking Sui, which has also seen consistent growth in inflows over the past few months. We also had our first sighting of Barachain on the Wormhole Scan leaderboard, as the chain with the bear on it is off to a hot start. When it comes to the most popular tokens, USDC, WETH, and USDS took the top 3 spots, with USDC volume north of 200 million for the month of March. That's all for today. We'll keep you updated on these weekly. And now back to our regular programming.
That's incredible.
Wow, Billy Bridge.
Thank you, Billy Bridge. Let's go. There's a funny story. That is actually a replacement Billy Bridge. Original Billy Bridge said that he couldn't make it because he's shooting a show in Brooklyn. He's on like a SWAT Brooklyn. So, or one of those like cop shows, which I thought was pretty hilarious. So maybe we'll get original Billy Bridge back, but stand-in Billy Bridge was, he did a great job. So shout out Billy Bridge. Oh, that's good stuff. Awesome. So that's Billy Bridge. We're now going to get into the meat of the call here. Obviously entering the wormhole. I want to quickly shout out Mezzo, a chain that we've been excited about for a long time, officially announcing Wormhole as their official interop provider. You know, welcome to the Wormhole Fogo. I think we are all very excited about the prospects here. And so without further ado, I want to bring up Doug, who is a founding contributor at Fogo. Doug, welcome to the Wormhole ecosystem call. Why don't you give the audience a quick intro about yourself, and then once you start talking about Fogo, let me know, because I have another fun thing that we're gonna do. So welcome. Let's we can unmute you. How does yeah?
Yeah, so
there we go.
I like the graphic. It's that's great.
Milady World Order.
Yeah, cool. Well, thanks for having me, guys. Excited to be here. Yeah, for myself, quick background. So spent most of my life as a HFT quant and TradFi for about a decade, and then was a MEV searcher for a while before starting my first project, Ambient, which is was originally an Ethereum spot DEX and AMM, and now is also Ambient. Was coming over to Fogo, and we'll be doing some interesting stuff there. But yeah, that's quick background on myself. In terms of Fogo, I met Rob Sagerton and Mike Cahill from Pith about this time last year, and they kind of had this crazy idea for a basically a faster version of Solana, and pitched it to me. And I think they also talked to you guys quite early on, and kind of loved the idea, and signed up for Fogo, and been a kind of co-founder there since last year.
Let's go. We're watching Best of Ghost Rider. I was inspired when making the deck, and I just like, why not? Well, I think it's a hilariously iconic movie, and I think with some of the mimetic choices that you guys have made, I felt like it was super fitting.
Yeah, I like it a lot. Yeah, I need some of that Nick Cage energy. It's I like it.
We don't actually have to watch
the whole thing.
Ghost Rider the whole time. We can cut to like what is Fogo, what you guys are doing. But yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That's a deep cut though. I do like that. I haven't thought about that movie in a while. That's that's a good one.
Cool. Yeah. So high level pitch for Fogo is it's basically Solana, but it's kind of fixing a lot of the things that kind of are frictions in Solana world for kind of serious trading, right? So like we're thinking about like how can we kind of all of us on the team have a background in like high frequency or trading or high frequency trading, quant trading, that type of stuff. So I think kind of the DNA of the team is very much has roots in that, and so kind of we feel the frictions with like on-chain trading and price discovery and kind of building markets on chain, and so Fogo basically was a project to kind of how can we fix these things from day one. So to start, right, it's fully Solana compatible or SVM compatible, so that was very important for us, right? So things can move over, and anything that is on Solana can move over to Fogo. Just by porting to a new network, but everything works the same. But the key thing, right, is I guess two things. Number one is the network is fire dancer first from day one. So I think this has kind of been a tension in Solana world where you have this fire dancer client, which right is still in progress, but when it's done, it should be a lot more scalable than kind of the existing Solana clients. But the problem is the network can only run as fast as the slowest major client. So it'll take a while for Solana to kind of reap some of those benefits. So we kind of thought, okay, what if you build a chain from day one, just Fire Dancer focused, and right, can you get that performance out of the box? And then the second thing, the thing that's really exciting that Fogo is doing is kind of this idea of multi-local consensus, and so that kind of goes back to no matter how fast your blockchain is, when consensus is global, when your validators can be distributed anywhere, you're limited by the speed of light. Right, like it takes so long for light to travel from New York to Tokyo. So right, like that's I don't know, right? Like Solana block times are 400 milliseconds, and you can probably like get those down a little more, but you run into a floor. And it would be very hard to get down, say, to the tens of milliseconds. So Fogo, right, like is built with this kind of co-location model in mind, which has obviously been very successful in the TradFi world, right? Like exchanges are co-located in one place, including the traders can kind of be there so they can react faster. So Fogo is doing the same thing, but kind of where the multi-part of multi-local consensus comes in is it can move very easily from center to center, or even if there's a kind of a disaster, it can fall back to global consensus, so that you're in a given data center at any given time, but if there's an issue with that jurisdiction, or somebody comes in, or all the servers shut down, it kind of falls over very gracefully back into a general purpose blockchain. And that's kind of important from a decentralization angle, and kind of what we thought was how, like, okay, things are going to push towards this lower latency, and how can we do it in kind of the most decentralized way on an L1. So yeah, that's the high level pitch there.
Awesome, thank you. And I guess like for the audience as well, like where things now, what do things look like from a timeline perspective? I know that we had some pretty big announcements even within the last week.
Yeah. So this week, actually, just 2 days ago, we launched what we're calling phase 0 of the public test net. So that being said, right, like phase 0 is we're focused on onboarding infrastructure providers. So we have testnet running under this multi-local consensus. We're onboarding infrastructure providers, RPCs, validators, kind of all that part. So there's not a ton yet for kind of the ordinary user to dig in, but kind of phase one of the, and then get the Explorer, kind of get apps up, will be coming in the next couple months. As so that in tandem with, we launched the Fogo Flames incentive program yesterday. So kind of there's some call to actions there where people can kind of interact with the project in various ways, or partner projects of the project, like Ambient or Pith, and kind of earn some of these these early points or flames. So yeah, we have that up. Like I said, I think kind of the next phase of testnet is coming out, let's say end of this month, where we'll be able to start onboarding kind of ordinary users and have kind of consumer things to do. And then, we are aiming for mainnet early Q3, right? Everything's always subject to kind of crypto timelines, but kind of what's important to us is that we move very fast on this, and kind of that's why, where we can, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're using kind of Fire Dancer and making kind of minimal changes where necessary, but kind of shipping a timely mainnet is kind of super important to us.
Awesome. No, great,
I got
great run on.
Quick question, if
you.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Doug, is there anything you can say about use cases people can expect that maybe will be live on Fogo, or maybe just generically, like what use cases you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean,
expect?
I mean, the biggest thing is this is a trading oriented chain, so it's a general purpose chain, right? We want everything. So games welcome, consumer apps welcome, of course, but given the DNA of the project and kind of what we're focused on, is trading is a very core part of the chain and the application, and obviously right now, kind of on chain perps trading is the hot thing. So we are working very hard to provide what I think will be a very interesting on chain perps trading experience that will be there on day one. I think we'll have some announcements coming up related to that, and users will kind of see what they can expect, but I think there'll be some like pretty interesting things that you haven't really been able to do on chain yet.
Very interesting. Like a faster, higher performance Hyperliquid built on a faster, higher performant Solana, almost.
Yeah, and ultimately, right, like as when from like one is for like users perspective, but like liquidity providers, market makers, kind of all of that stuff, their ability to provide cheap and reliable liquidity is dependent on right, like these performance metrics, latency, throughput, the ability to land transactions. That's that's a frustrating thing, right? Even in Solana, when the network gets congested and you're a market maker and you can't cancel your quotes or adjust your quotes, it's not great. And so, right, like you have to compensate for that with higher spreads and higher fees and kind of all that stuff. So by working kind of very closely at the blockchain level and making sure those guarantees are there, and making sure kind of has more of the guarantees that liquidity providers are looking for, right? Like ultimately that translates over into a better, cheaper, faster trading experience for end users.
Fully. And from our side, right? I think we're excited to be working with Fogo. I think very very much the bread and butter of Wormhole, which is like finding awesome builders and giving them the infrastructure from day one to win. I think we have a pretty good track record. Solana, Sui, the like.
Yeah,
so,
and that's why
and
that's why, right, we just announced this, but that's why you guys were one of our first calls, or if not the first call, when this project was spinning up, because like absolutely critical to a new, especially an L1, right, is the ability, like having a trusted bridge. And I think like in Solana space in particular, right, there's kind of there's no better brand name on that side. So yeah, very excited to have be partnered on this.
Robbie, want to say something?
I mean, Doug, I appreciate you taking the time. No, look, I'm excited, and I think when I think about it, at a high level, being able to, and there was actually a tweet thread about this yesterday, talking about like what's the actual decentralized trading experience look like when you want to actually trade all assets, right? Is it like some coordinating accounting across chains, or are you bringing them to one location that's extremely fast, extremely cheap, pretty much, one of Fogo's value props of like giving an institutional grade experience, but actually being able to trade any asset there as well, right? Like we're very used to, saying like, Solana and then the asset specific to Solana, or Fogo and maybe the asset specific to Fogo. But now we're getting to a point where it's like you build the optimal engine for, let's say, trading, and then you have you bring in the optimal or the principal assets that people want to trade, and then you're really getting close to, or not even close to, you are replicating more of like a traditional financial experience. So I'm excited about this in particular, just because it's the perfect setup to bring in these like large principal assets, have a very high throughput trading experience, and ultimately like really start to compete with some of these more traditional financial products. So it's just a good loves, biased, but love seeing a bunch of good teams coming together to create a good experience. So yeah, really excited, and thanks for taking the
Yeah,
time.
I mean, I think that's like that's a great point, right? Like in centralized exchange world, you don't think, oh, I trade ETH on Bybit, I trade
Yeah.
Bitcoin on Binance, right? It's just all your assets are kind of in one place, and that's that's what users expect, and you haven't yet seen that really on an on-chain in an on-chain context, right? People trade Solana on Jupiter, and then they'll trade ETH on Uniswap, and kind of move back and forth to the network. But yeah, I think that's a great point. You'd rather have the assets moved to where the traders are than constantly have traders move back and forth to wherever they need to go. And yeah, that's why, like, kind of really important on having Wormhole there and having something, right, where you can tap into kind of this network of assets and have them bridged over in a very like kind of reliable an easy way, and right, like market makers can kind of be confident that what they're trading is kind of backed by Wormhole, and then on the other side, right, this is why kind of having Pith, the Pith team involved and being a sister project is super important, because you have the feeds to kind of all of those assets, and even kind of they're doing a lot of really interesting things outside crypto native stuff. So, but a combination of having the feeds for kind of derivatives and market structure and having the assets is just like a very powerful, plus with an engine where kind of market makers are used to kind of the performance they want, is just a powerful engine.
Absolutely. No, well said. And I think from the Wormhole perspective, like the Wormhole suite of products has gotten significantly better, right? If you think back to like what the product suite was maybe when we first integrated with Solana, no NTT, no intense frameworks, and now yeah, well, and now we have like these awesome new chains that we can, it's 5-6 layers at the at the dApp level, at the at the messaging layer, at the asset layer. So I think that's the other exciting piece for me when it comes to new chains and chains like Fogo. Awesome.
I actually didn't know the NTT was CCTP. I didn't know those were like the same thing. Basically, I learned that when you guys said that earlier. It's
I was being a little liberal with the definition, being a little liberal. Same concepts though, right? Like CCTP is a burn and mint, but it's completely centralized. It's Circle, but we all decided we're okay with that. NTT is effectively you have the Guardian network, but you still have the burn and mint contracts, but it's arbitrary, so it could be any token. So like they're the same concepts, I think, is what I was going for, but like spawned kind of out of
the same model. That's that's really interesting.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Doug, thank you very much. Yeah, like it just a last shout. Where can people reach you? Where can people find out more about Fogo? Where would you like people to go to find out more about Fogo?
Yeah, follow us on at Fogo Chain on Twitter. That's probably the best way to keep up with our developments, and as we come out with these kind of new things and announcements, I think we'll be busy next few months. And then of course join the Discord, and the link there should be right on the Twitter account. But keep up with us. I think we got some cool things in the pipeline.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much for the time, Doug. We are going to move on to our next section, talk a little bit about Tokenize.NYC. Doug, again,
thanks, guys.
Thank you so much. See you around. Bye. Awesome. That was dope. Fogo's dope. Little fire guy. It's dope. Ghostwriter's pretty cool too.
Also,
Nicholas.
fun fact, on the branding side, Fogo means fire in Portuguese, so it relates to fire dancer, obviously the speed of the chain, but people may not know that. It sounds kind of like fuego in Spanish.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah. Or Fogo de Chão.
Nicholas. Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
that's low hanging fruit, Robinson. Come on. So, yeah. Awesome. Well, let's jump into it. Tokenize.NYC, a raving success. I think I'll pop up a little bit of a hype video from the day. We can watch this and a couple of videos I like a lot as well. Two from like very cool, well-established people. So cover that in a sec. Awesome. Yeah, why don't you guys take it away? Let me know what it was like. What was the energy?
For those of you listening, Thomas unfortunately wasn't there. So
no, I was not. I wasn't trying to make it sound like that. I actually very much enjoyed watching it on live stream because I could listen to all the talks and actually learn. Like when you're at events in person, you're just like running, like a chicken with your head cut off. So it was cool to like watch the live stream and actually listen to what some of these like insanely smart people had to say. I think from a guest like speakerless perspective, for a one-day event, I think it's like really hard to compete. So yeah, guys, like give me the long and short how the day was. What are some of like the big conclusions? I think we can. There's some, as I said, there's two other videos that like I think some of the two big conclusions are when it comes to how the institutions are thinking about the space. But we can kind of play those in the background as you guys cook.
Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, I think maybe from my perspective, or from even my perspective and Robinson's, there was several highlights. I think one of the earlier highlights or funny moments was walking through New York. We like took a right. We were getting close to the New York Times Center where the event was, and there was a big Chainlink truck that they spent probably over $50,000 on to advertise Chainlink outside of the Wormhole event, which was hilarious. So obviously tweeted that, and people kind of enjoyed that. But then we got into the building, and it was great. The day started. We had the event was co-hosted with Securitize, and shout out to them. Michael, Carlos, a lot of people on their team helped a lot with rallying together a lot of these speakers, and the host of the event was from the Securitize team as well. So that went really, really great. And then throughout the day, we had speakers, panels on the stage, ranging from like Christine at Apollo to me was one of the highlights, and I would recommend going. This panel to me was a highlight. So Robbie from BlackRock, Christine from Apollo, and then Anthony Scaramucci, and it was moderated by Michael from Securitize. So I'd recommend going to YouTube and watching this clip. And then, yeah, there was a lot of kind of people networking, talking in the hallway, a lot of great connections made, ended with a happy hour. But overall, great day. The other highlight to me, and I'll let Robinson go, was actually the legal panel. I think it was probably one of the best groups of lawyers in crypto, like on earth, that were all together on that panel. Including Kathy from Wormhole Foundation, and you had a few other people who have done a lot of work in crypto and also in DC. So a lot of interesting insights there. And then actually ended with the new chief of staff of the SEC, and it was his first time speaking in public since taking that role. And he was interviewed one-on-one on stage there to wrap up the day. So yeah, a lot of great highlights on the day. It was half day, which was perfect. It was from like 1 p.m. to 6 p.m. So not too much. We were very happy with the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, Dan, you gave a great overview. Like, maybe I'm taking a little bit of a step back. Like a lot of people probably listening and probably know this or have experienced this themselves. But in crypto, we go to a lot of events. We're very geographically distributed, so there's just so many events. So sometimes I joke that like we either know how to throw events really well, or we know what a good event is, a bad event. And obviously, couldn't be more biased, but this was just one of the better events I think I've been to in my professional crypto career, over the five years or whatever. It was not too long. It was very high signal. A lot of people, a lot of movers and shakers, a lot of people building really inspiring stuff, bringing large funds on chain, a lot of institutions. To Dan's point, chief of staff of the SEC, lawyers that are actually trying to push change in the industry. So you just had this room of people that were really cared. You had an incredible stablecoin panel. I don't think it was mentioned, but I loved that. We had the Zero Hash team, AUSD, M0, and yeah, I mean, to me, it was just the perfect length, the perfect amount of information. It was one of those things where I sat in all the panels, which I don't do at a lot of conferences.
I was going to say that. There were founders and CEOs sitting there almost all day just watching panels. That doesn't happen at conferences.
I sat there, everyone, and learned something on every single panel. So it was just there was just a ton of intentionality. I know, Dan, you and the team put a lot of work behind it, a ton of intentionality. The Securitize team, again, like they did an incredible job, Michael and Carlos as well, Justin and all them. So I loved it. Great use of time, not too long, like I said, good happy hour, and then we were done. Then we moved on to DAS, right? So I'm excited about doing more and really focusing. I think the key here was the quality over quantity, and being respectful of time, right? It started at like midday and ended at 5, but it felt like this huge long day packed full of information. So and the theme, of course, is bringing back to wormholes, that wormholes tying all this together, right? Whether it's stable coins, whether it's RWAs, it doesn't matter, right? If it's an asset, an application, an institution, an AI agent, it was cool to see kind of wormhole kind of interwoven in all these different conversations. So when Tokenize 2 is my last question.
It's coming and I'll be there. So.
One last thing I'll add is I think a takeaway that I know Edward mentioned this, Edward from Zero Hash, that he got from our presentation was, I think what resonated with him was when we said like being on chain for these institutions and really anyone means being on all chains. Like no one wants to just launch on one chain, just like Uber would never just launch in the US. They're launching globally because they want access to all of those markets and all those economies. And that's exactly what a blockchain is. It's just an economy. So we're connecting all those together, and people like BlackRock and Apollo are launching their assets globally on all these chains, not just a single one.
Yeah, no, and I think no better way to kind of like tie the bow on the wormhole contributors' focus over the past year than Tokenize, than the agenda at Tokenize, right? If you look at like very much the topics of every conversation, and then you look at like where we've been putting our energy and our focus and kind of like the wins in each of those categories. As you said, RWAs, whether it's like, advancing on the tokenization front, or, as you said, when it comes to like policy and regulatory clarity, Kathy has been kind of crushing it, being a thought leader in that space. So yeah, as I said, like it's a perfect way to tie the bow on the past year of work. Obviously, as we mentioned before, today is the first year one of the decentralization of the Wormhole protocol in the books and the launch of the W token. W was launched a year ago today. It's now natively multi-chain to 5 chains. We have kind of busted our asses over the last year to kind of present some of these awesome partners and integrators and some of the wins that we've had. So yeah, Dan, I'll pass it over to you to kind of give us the long and short of the past year, and what it's been like at the Wormhole protocol, and what we can look forward to in the future.
Yeah, I think I'll go all the way back. Sometimes it's good just to remind people how Wormhole started. I think you alluded to this, Thomas, at the beginning, but Wormhole actually started with a team called Certus One. It was some engineers from Germany. They built the original Wormhole bridge between Solana and Ethereum after getting a Solana Foundation grant. So Solana is kind of like in the blood and in our history since the beginning over 4 years ago. And even interestingly, the first ever Solana hackathon was called the Solana Wormhole Hackathon. And they had teams building multi-chain applications using Wormhole to bring in liquidity from Ethereum. And that really, of course, Solana did an incredible job growing their ecosystem, but that wouldn't have happened without Wormhole. We've brought billions of assets and other forms of data into that ecosystem, which we're definitely really proud of. And then following that, of course, there was immediate product market fit with this original application, which was just connecting Solana and Ethereum. And then that scaled to now it's over 35 different chains. And the team dynamic has changed dramatically too. That team that I mentioned was acquired along with Wormhole by Jump, as people know, is also part of kind of the history of Wormhole, being one of the strongest trading firms in the world. They were able to invest a lot of resources and incredibly talented people into Wormhole. And then that was when, about over 2 years ago, Robinson and I came on to formalize and start the foundation, build up that team, and then the foundation has helped start up some of these different labs entities and fund some of their operations. So there's Wormhole Labs, there's X Labs, there's GFX, and then there's Asymmetric Research, which is the best security team in the industry, and they focus every day on Wormhole, as well as teams that are somehow connected to Wormhole. That could be chains. They found and reported, you can look this up, a bug in Circle CCTP. They found bugs in Ethereum and Cosmos. So they're helping protect not only Wormhole, but the broader ecosystem, which is really cool. So, and then, yeah, the post that we put out today related, the timing is actually 1 year after the kind of the decentralization process of Wormhole started, and the W token was launched April 3rd of last year. And then over the past year, what has happened is quite a bit of progress on the Wormhole kind of platform side. We've mentioned all the institutional progress we've made. We've done a lot on the crypto native side, including like stable coins, multi-chain applications. I think a lot of people who follow Wormhole, and probably people watching this, are aware. And then Wormhole governance also, at one point last year, I think Q3 or so, started rolling out Wormhole governance. The governance system is already live across 4 different EVM chains. So that's Ethereum, Arbitrum, Optimism, and Base. And then Solana has gone live and more formally going live with full Wormhole governance very soon. And one thing to mention, all of that multi-chain governance is actually enabled by Wormhole's product that we're launching called MultiGov. We tend to build products after we have integrators that come to us with needs for new capabilities. And through all of our work with Uniswap, for example, because we work on basically helping their governance data go multi-chain, we said, why is everyone forced to go vote on governance proposals for Uniswap on ETH mainnet only? And then if they have their tokens on Arbitrum, they can't vote at all. They just don't have a voice in the process. Why can't people vote on all of these chains? And then that just gets aggregated together in one place. So we teamed up with Tally, who's one of the leading governance teams in the industry, and Scopelift, who are kind of governance engineers, and built MultiGov. So MultiGov is going live, and something that Wormhole always does is we use our own products. So we're launching our governance with our product MultiGov, so people can vote across, starting with 5 different chains and growing with their W tokens, no matter where they are. So that's kind of what's next for W. And then a few things I'll mention, and of course there's more detail in the post that we put out today, so I would recommend checking that out. But a few things to mention for the future. One is, of course, we think a lot about, goal setting and strategy internally, and we have a lot of metrics that we follow. Like, one is all-time message volume, which we're the #1 in the industry. All-time volume enabled, like Thomas said, 59 billion, also #1 in the industry, in the world. These are the types of metrics that we're trying to get the next 10x. We've done multiple 10x's since Wormhole started 4 years ago. We came from 0, obviously, and then we took that volume to 100,000, which was a big milestone, to 1 million. Now we're at 59 billion. So imagine the number of 10x's that we've done since the beginning. So now we're just, what's the next 10x in the next year, in the next 2 years? So that includes things like improving Portal, improving our products like NTT, our token framework, our settlement product, queries, could go on. And then, of course, institutional asset volume. So continuing to work and expand our work with the existing funds that have tokenized with Securitize, new funds that are going to be onboarding with Securitize and going multi-chain with Wormhole, and of course a growing list of institutions even outside of that. So that's kind of what's next on how we're viewing the near future. Another thing to mention is around our research team. So the Wormhole contributors have been researching platform monetization, fee switches, revenue, things like this. So this is definitely something to keep your eye out for. There's been a lot of work going on this, and there will be a more kind of detailed rollout of this along with the go live. So that'll be exciting to start, understanding, like, we've built this massive kind of like super highway system across the entire industry, and not just one product, an entire suite of products. So all the points within that platform in which monetization and fees can be generated, and then having the ability to generate those rewards and then redirect to people actively participating in Wormhole governance, actively participating as a governance staker, are things that will be included in those rollouts when that comes. Don't need to go through the detail of the product roadmap, but that's just one other thing to mention is we've divided things out by eras in Wormhole. So we've completed era 3 last year. We're currently in the development process of era 4. So this includes multi-gov, like I mentioned, Wormhole governance. Our settlement product is already live. Portal upgrades will be a big one. Other community incentives that are still kind of waiting to go live. So that's kind of what to expect in the near term. And then finally, I think an important thing for people to also understand is just where do we see Wormhole going, not in 1 year or 2 years, but in 5, 10, 20, even 50 years? Because if you've been in crypto, more than a couple of years, you understand now that all the things that we were talking about 10 years ago or 7 years ago when I started, these things seemed like crazy dreams. Like, the thought of having one single week where Circle is IPOing, BlackRock is about to hit 2 billion in on-chain assets, that alone, it just doesn't seem real. But all of this is actually happening, and it's coming to reality. So we're all very well positioned to enable this next kind of phase in how the economy works in general. You see Robinhood now talking about tokenizing stocks, tokenizing other forms of assets, bringing them on chain. This is all happening. So what I'll kind of end with, and I know this has been somewhat long-winded, I'm just going to read the last paragraph of the blog post for people. So over the next 50 years, Wormhole is set to be the foundational infrastructure on which the Internet of Value is built, where real-world assets, crypto-native assets, capital markets, and government systems all interoperate freely and securely. And as crypto matures from fragmented economic zones on blockchains, which is how we view blockchains, they're just economies, now into a unified internet economy, Wormhole powered by W will be the connective system enabling billions of transactions every day between institutions, between users and machines across every network, every population, and every part of the world. So that is where we see ourselves going in 50 years and 100 years, even after some of us are, just for generations to come. So check out the post. There's a lot more detail there, but it was exciting to kind of get this out. And we've obviously we knew this was where we were headed. We've been thinking about this a lot, but it's nice to just get it on paper and allow people to kind of understand what's been going through the heads of a lot of the Wormhole contributors.
Absolutely, and well said, Dan. And I really don't think there's a better way to wrap up than that. So we will leave it there. I think top of the hour, perfect timing. Dan Robinson, thank you guys very much. To everyone listening, thank you as well. We don't take the time that you share with us lightly. This is the third edition now wrapped up. We'll obviously have these on a monthly cadence and maybe even more frequent with some more product updates and rollouts. So yeah, guys, awesome. Thank you guys for joining. To the audience, thank you guys so much. And we'll see you guys next month. Peace.
Cool. Thank you.